Welcome, everybody. My name is Keenan Durman,
And I'm JJ Durman, and
and
this
this
is
is Synergy
Synergy Podcast.
Podcast. Welcome to episode 2. Today, we're going to get into a little bit about JJ's journey on how he got here. So, a lot of you probably don't know, but in 2006, JJ had a very catastrophic event that actually led him to lose everything that he had. Not only did it lead to him losing his job, it also led to him losing every physical thing that he had in his life, and it changed the course of his life. And so today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of an interview so you guys can have a little bit more insight about the man behind everything that he's built today, how he got here, and to give you a little bit of hope that no matter what happens in your past, you're not defined by it, and you can absolutely overcome anything with a lot of hard work, dedication, and the right people by your side.
Okay.
So, you ready to get started?
Let's go.
Okay. So in 2006, after you had basically resolved the issue that had presented itself to you earlier that year, what were you left with?
Pretty much nothing. I lost all relationships, house, all vehicles, all toys, side by sides, ATVs, you name it. Money, about negative 40,000 in debt, roughly. And all that was before I could even get a job. So
And so, how did you get that first job after this issue?
yeah, that's after that particular issue. I mean, it's been several months, but my dad actually made a call and got me on a project as a helper, a welder helper. So I went from the top of the ladder down to the bottom. Got me on as a welder helper for a company, I don't even remember who, in Baker, Montana. I don't remember what I was making, but it was probably in the teens of money. So maybe 17, 18 bucks an hour, maybe. Keep in mind, that's from like almost 50 bucks an hour down to bottom of the ladder again.
Yeah.
So it's basically like I died and started all over. 2006. That's the way I viewed it.
So, how did that make you feel knowing that prior to this event, you were at the top of the ladder, and then now here you are in the same year, just a mere 6 months later, you're at the bottom of the ladder, having to start from scratch and prove yourself all over again? How did that affect your confidence?
Going into that, I didn't. Don't get me wrong. Like I've always held a high confidence because I've always felt like I needed to just to be good at whatever I was doing. But at the end of the day, like the traumatic events tend to bring that down and like basically rob that from you. And so to get over that, basically just surrounded myself with the people at work was my only access to people at the time because I didn't have money, I didn't have transportation, I didn't have anything. So I just reinstalled that work ethic. And then being with my dad.
I know it's a hard conversation, but I think it's really important that you share these hardships so people can truly understand that no matter, what is thrown at you, you can still overcome all of those things. You are a success story. I know you hate hearing that, but you are. And not just for me,
Yeah, no,
but you are for other people.
No, it's fine. It's just hard to talk about.
I know. It's okay. You got it.
So back to my dad. That's the number one thing he ever gave me was the work ethic. And
Deep breath. You got it.
so I can't say enough good about that.
James Sr. is a wonderful man. The work ethic that this man has is just incredible. He just recently retired, by the way. And we previously talked about how if Karen, his mother, didn't insist that James retire, that he was literally going to die out there because that's what his work ethic was. And that is something that he has instilled in JJ. And it's one of the greatest gifts that anybody can ever instill into you is that you are your greatest asset. And no one can stop you if you truly believe in yourself. And I think that a lot of that confidence comes from your dad.
It does. And once I got back with him and around him, like the confidence started coming back really quick. And then obviously, you know, these guys look up to my dad as a workhorse, in a sense. So being around that environment of just, you know, elevated work ethic, that kind of like put the confidence back in perspective, and it kind of put the willpower and the drive back into where I needed to go and where I needed to be. Um, and I enjoyed the work. Like I don't care that I fell off the ladder. I don't care that I had to go back to, you know, tools versus management. I didn't care about none of that. Like my whole goal was just to get back to myself.
So let's talk about that first job that you took with your dad. He kind of got you settled back in and back on your feet. And then from there, what did your career look like moving forward? How did you progress from that bottom of the ladder role that you started back over in back to where you were in 2013 before you created Freedom Industrial? Take us a
Uh,
little bit on that journey ride.
so that the Baker Montana project was the first job that my dad got me when I got past the situation, and from there we were getting close to wrapping up that project. I never leave a project until it's finished. I don't care what the time frame is. We love to see the projects come to fruition from 0 to 100.
Sure.
And so I've always been fascinated with that part. So it's the whole process that I was always in love with. But and so I would never leave a project until it was done. My dad was the same way. So after that, about the time that project was about to wrap up, my dad made another call for me on another project that he wanted to go on, but it wasn't ready for him yet. So he actually made the call to the manager, which is a good friend of my dad's, a lifetime friend, um, somewhat of a mentor for me, because working under this guy, like I was able to access and be taught some information that most people probably wouldn't even be privy to, like real like high end management level type stuff. And I love being around this guy. His name was Bruce Spiegel. We just all called him Pops because he was just a big, jolly, badass dude that just knew everything about oil and gas industry, power plant industry. And this particular project was a shift because it was a power plant job in Hobbs, New Mexico. And going over there, I actually was able to transition back unexpectedly from bottom of the ladder to a high-end management role, which was offered to me. Um, and so after dad made that call and those guys kind of worked out the time frame, I was able to actually shift from one job to the next. And it was pretty cool because it was almost like a new start and a new beginning, but in a position and in a place again surrounded by more people with more work ethic and more like high level of craftsmanship and mentality, which was the part I was really needing at the time too, to kind of level myself back up. But the pay was going to be enough now to finally get back on my feet financially. So now that was the second phase. It was like, okay, get my shit together, and now let's get the money side together. And so I still didn't have a house, still didn't have much. I was able to buy a vehicle, yes, but the money part obviously takes time. So when I accepted the position, went down there, basically just went into like ghost mode is what I like to call it. And so I just work and save, work and save, and I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. There's no relationships to be played with at that time. So I'm just in that, and I've just become a ghost because I knew where I needed to get back to, and I knew it was going to take time, and it was going to take a lot of work. And so I was in a good position with a long-term job around a lot of good people, and so I had all the fundamental elements of getting back to a certain level. And so it became my happy place now. And so it was probably one of my favorite projects ever in my life because of that one reason is like I was actually able to mend everything in a sense to get back to somewhat of a normalcy, or what I considered normalcy at the time.
So, what some of you may not know, and it's very difficult for him to talk about, but also in 2006, on June 30th, our son Evan was born. I say our son because he's now mine. But at the time, obviously, I wasn't there, and I didn't know him then. But Evan was born, and because of the situation that happened earlier in the year, JJ wasn't there when Evan was born. And it's something that has really plagued him almost his whole entire adult life, and not something that's easy for him to speak of. So when he's telling you about working nonstop, trying to get back to where he was before, something that you need to understand is during the middle of all of this, he was hit with max child support in the state of Texas for $1,730 a month.
$1,710 a month plus insurance.
Oh, plus insurance. My bad. But I could swear it was $1,730. But anyways, so he was hit with the Texas max of child support. And at this point, that max was based off of what he was making prior to this incident that happened in April of 2006. So regardless of what he was making, at the time that he started this new job, he was still having to pay that amount of money and still not able to even afford, because of that Texas Child Max, to go home and see his son. Because if anybody knows anything about Texas oil field workers, they technically are rarely ever working in Texas. They're all over the country. And for him to get back financially where he was before so he could actually truly provide for his son, he was working out of state. And because of all of these circumstances, he was missing so much back at home. And I also think that because of that situation, it lit a fire under you that most people would actually let drown them. But instead, you used it as this driving force to propel yourself forward versus letting it be something that really dragged you down. You could have ran from your responsibilities.
Yeah, so like she said, I mean, in June, I was in prison for an incident that I was not able to be present, is the word I would use. I was not able to be present at my son's birth, at my only son's birth, my only biological son's birth. And that took me for a whirlwind, and it still does. It's a hard pill to swallow every day. And but like she said, though, I mean, there's several things that took place that year, but it lit a fire that probably can't be extinguished at this point, because it can't go away. And so all I knew after that was I wanted to put myself in position in the future to where things like that, like I could battle and it not bring me back down. I wanted to put myself in a position after that where I was financially capable of handling situations, and I wasn't going to settle for the norm anymore, because the norm didn't get me any type of security, didn't give me the safety, didn't give me anything that I thought it would give me. And so I had to set my sights higher than that. And so that's when I started entertaining how I can get to the absolute top. And so within the companies, I wanted to be at the top, all the way to the top. Like, it didn't matter what I had to do. It didn't matter how long it took. It didn't matter any of that. Like, all I knew was, like, I needed every piece of information and I need to absorb it, and I need to be that person on the top. So I just wanted to go to the top management level as high as I could possibly go. And that's exactly what I did over the next few years. And then that led me to a realization that the work I'm actually putting into probably equated to the entrepreneurial life, because I was doing, so much management level stuff and so much management of a lot of high-end people. I was like, well, why don't I just do this for myself? If I'm going to put myself through this type of ringer, I just do it for myself. Mm-hmm. And so in 2013, that's actually when I created Freedom Industrial Services and went out on my own and started my own company.
And once you did that and made that decision, what sacrifices did you have to make in order to make that dream a reality?
After you become an entrepreneur, especially the way I did it, mm-hmm. I had to become a ghost again. So this was actually something I was familiar with this time. So I was actually pretty good at it. And so I did the same thing. I chased my clients and I stuck by my people. I didn't really care about money or financials at the time because I knew it was going to take time. I knew it was going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of systems to be in place that I probably didn't even know existed yet. So I knew all that stuff, all the steps and all the systems and the standards and everything had to be recreated, rebuilt, and put back together in order for me to build a substantial company. And so again, I became a ghost. And I use that word a lot because I literally didn't have anybody that even knew where I was most of the time, except the people I was directly affiliated with. Now, this was prior to us getting married.
Yeah.
For the first few years. But so for the first 5 years, I literally became a ghost. Nobody knew where I was at, except if you were the only people that knew where I was at, knew what I was doing, were the people I was working with. And honestly, I didn't really care about anything else going on. I don't watch sports. I don't watch news. I don't play those games. I don't do anything like that. So like I literally just worked, went to the gym, did personal development, studied myself. I studied everything I needed to learn from personal development on anything from YouTube to books to things I could study online about, being the best version of yourself. Because those are I still had broken pieces that I had to mend back together. So, in order for me, and I knew that if I was going to start a business, I still had other levels I needed to climb. So, in order for me to get to one level to the next level to the next level, and to me, there's an infinite amount of levels. There's no such thing as a top level.
No.
And so, I just wanted to because once I had to recreate myself, I wanted to build myself. And so I literally spent an enormous amount of time just building myself back up, building the company at the same time, and figuring out how to navigate the whole entrepreneurial world inside oil and gas at the same time. Not an easy task, but we were able to get through it.
Yeah. And so when I came into the picture in 2016, you were working in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And he was running himself ragged. I mean, the unfortunate thing and fortunate thing, I guess you could say, about what you had created was that everybody kind of wanted JJ. But if JJ couldn't be on the job, they didn't want JJ. He was the face of his product. And so he was bouncing from job to job. And it was interesting to date somebody like you, because we had just started dating in 2016. So it's very interesting to date somebody like you who I didn't have your full attention all the time, but I had your full attention all the time. How you ever managed me, because I'm needy, I don't even know how you did it, because you were working full time, but you would always make time throughout the day to call me, like especially on your lunch break. But I could see the toll that it was taking on you. And then obviously in 2018, you wrapped up your job in King Ranch. I think it was like September maybe. And you came home and you said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, fuck. I was thinking you didn't want to be married to me anymore, because I was like, well, man, he finally figured out I'm a hot mess. But that wasn't it. It was actually the opposite. He actually wanted to be home with me and the boys more. And so he made a decision that ultimately changed the course of our life again. And I'm going to let you tell him, because you were actually the mastermind behind everything that we have now. And so just so you know, guys, it only takes one idea and then one action to completely change the whole course of your life in a positive way. And he made this step. He made a decision that he no longer wanted to travel. He wanted to be a family man and to be home with me and the boys as much as he could, because he made a realization that he could actually achieve more with us by his side every day than what he ever could achieve on his own. And so tell him what you decided to do in 2018, because I thought it was bananas. I was like,
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry, we're doing what?
let's
But
let's
okay.
back up a little bit. So I went to Pennsylvania for one project. We ended
Yeah.
up landing 4 because of our performance record, and
Yeah.
so we did a really good job, and it was pretty exciting. It does get exciting when you go do a project and you do it well enough to where the client, you got to realize these are the largest clients on the planet, midstream companies,
Hmm.
and and we're direct affiliation with them, and so it is pretty exciting, and you can get caught up in this. They want you to give you more projects, so okay, cool, more projects, more money, more projects, more time.
And more time away
So
from
I
home.
went up there on one contracted project, ended up with 4, and then by the time we hit the 4th one, I ended up with a 5th project in King Ranch down in South Texas. And so the problem was is JJ couldn't be on all 4 projects and the 5th project at the same time, and that's what she means by I couldn't be everywhere at the same time.
I mean, he does believe he's
And
a
that doesn't.
superhero, but
It's because in the beginning of building the company, I was so in their face. I was actually the product, and I had to figure out a way to not be the product. You hire the company, not you hire JJ.
yeah.
And so that was going in the wrong direction. So I had to figure out how to make that shift. And so after those 5 projects is when I told her, I said, hey, I said, this isn't going exactly the way I had hoped it would or planned it would. It's starting to shift in more their favor. So they was taking more of my time. And I was like, well, I can't really divide my time that way. So I I attended a few meetings and I learned some new things about some of the other clients that we had where they were picking up other projects where they needed help in more of the um, management area. I was like, okay, well, and so I entertained that, had a few more meetings, had few personal phone calls with them. And as I dug into that, I started kind of having this new vision of like, well, what if I turn the whole company into, if there's enough work out there, what if I turn the whole company into just management?
Hmm.
Then I can just hire other managers to do what I was doing. And so I was like, it sounded good. And so I convinced them after I think I talked to them 9 times and I got told no.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell me no in a way of like, get out of my face. They told me no as like, it didn't really sound very appealing yet. And so I kept hearing that in their voice. So I'm like, man, I'll just keep coming back and asking them. So like 9 times later, finally the 10th time they said, you know what? Like, tell us your idea. And here's why. Because they tried to send people that were not used to being in the field. They tried to send them to the field for extended periods of time.
Hmm.
I knew that wasn't going to work. I was just waiting for them to figure out that wasn't going to work. Because I had been in the field my whole life. So I understand the concept. It does not work for them. It does work for us. And so me knowing that though, like I waited until they figured that out. And then once they figured that out, I came back in and I said, hey, so how about this? We do this, this, and this, you know, ABC. And they were like, well, bring in one of your guys. Let's interview him. So I called my best guy, Scott Douglas, top guy I had on my
Great guy.
payroll at the time. So we went downtown, Louisiana Street, 22nd floor, had a meeting, said, hey, this is what I want to put with you guys to manage the next part of their operations. Just said, okay. So we ended up selling them one guy,
Mhm.
and they loved it so much, they ended up turning into like 30 guys over the next probably year, I think. So anyway, as that happened, I'm a number cruncher, so I was able to do the same amount of money with less people. And then I was able to take myself out of the equation. And so now I didn't have to be the manager of anything anymore. All I had to do was just hire managers wherever they needed them. And so now I was finally able to twist the narrative from you're hiring JJ to now you're hiring the company. And then we became a management company literally overnight, almost.
Literally.
And so since management pays bigger, we were able to keep the same margins, less people, less headache, and less of my time. So it all kind of went in my favor.
And in mine.
And in yours. And so I was able to shift the entire company around. I didn't take on any more construction projects from that day on. And I told her, I said, I'm never leaving the house again if this works. And I haven't left the house since.
No.
And it's 8 years married now.
Yeah. Next week, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, next week is our anniversary.
It is. And if you're wondering how we managed to get married in the same year that he had all those 5 projects going on and he was running all over the place, we literally got married on Saturday and we were both back at work on Monday. We eloped. It took like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Best way to do it, in my opinion. I highly recommend. But I loved that you kind of made that sacrifice, because I know to this day you still love building stuff. And so being out in the field, building those, I'm always screw up this word. Is it compressor stations? Is that the right word? Look, y'all.
Cryogenics, fractionation,
And
compression,
I still don't
power
know.
plants.
I'm never gonna know. It's totally fine. I have a general idea that it's in midstream, and that's the extent of my knowledge. But my favorite part is that whatever you were doing, you managed to convert it to where you could be at home. And then once he did that, all of these other blessings really started to kind of roll in, and he actually got one of the best gifts that he ever could have gotten, in my opinion, besides from me. He actually, our middle son, Evan, the one that we were speaking about earlier, he actually came to live with us when he was 12 by his choice. And I say by his choice because I made it very clear early on as a previous single mom that I would never try to take Evan from his mother unless there was an absolute reason. It couldn't just be because, he wanted him. As long as there was no issues, nothing like that, I would never, ever advocate from that. I believe a child needs to be with his mom as well as his dad, but I was never an advocate for that. So when the situation actually came to fruition and Evan actually made the choice to come live with us, it was a game changer for him. And I truly believe that the sacrifice that you made at that point in time to say, hey, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be a part-time husband, a part-time dad, part-time stepdad. You made that sacrifice, and it wasn't just a personal sacrifice. It was a financial sacrifice, because it took a little bit of time after that last job wrapped to get, income flowing again after he converted the company. So it wasn't just one sacrifice, it was multiple. He took a risk, he bet on himself, and at the end of the day, if you can bet on yourself, there is no one that can stop you from doing anything. And he's proof of that.
Yep.
So just to give you guys a little bit of a reference, this is Aiden. He is our 18-year-old. He is my first son. With his father is Brian, and he lives in Idaho, and he goes to University of Idaho. This is Evan. He is also 18. He's 3 months younger than Aiden. He is JJ's biological son with Whitney. And then our youngest son, Gage, little cutie right here, he's 13. And
Mama's baby.
He is mama's baby. I'm sorry, but it's just always going to be that way. He's 13 years old. I have him with his father. His name's Tim. And he actually lives here just down the road. And so we have a 50-50 split with him. And Evan stays here as well. He goes to college. He's for cybersecurity. And these are all of our children. And it's just to show you that no matter what life throws at you, you can still create a very beautiful family with even some of the most complex circumstances. And we're proof of that.
Hey, thank you guys for joining this. This is a personal podcast for me, so it was very difficult to talk about some of the things in my past that I overcome. But at the end of the day, you surround yourself with the right people, and I have my amazing wife here that supports me unconditionally. So guys, work hard and bet on yourself. Love you.
I love you.